So yesterday in the Commons there was a bill that would have brought in PR for the general elections in the UK and reduced the voting age from 18 to 16. It's what we've been calling out for a long time, and it's the only way to make this electoral system fair. Remember that 24% of the electorate voted for this government, so that's 24% of the people put in a majority government who can pretty much do what they want without any way to stop them. So PR is important. It's important for fairness. You know, as much as I'm not a fan of UKIP, they had a huge vote and ended up with one MP, as did we. The SNP got a much smaller vote than UKIP, I think, and ended up with 56 MPs or some craziness like that. So PR is important. So there have been Labour people saying that PR is good. John McDonnell has suggested that PR would be good for Labour. Basically, for the left to unite in any sort of progressive alliance and stop the Tories, there has to be PR. People have to be able to vote for what they really want. So it was disappointing yesterday to see that Labour did not only not support the bill, but actually were whipped to abstain. Corbyn, Saint Corbyn, who's some people seem to be treating like some sort of Christ-like figure, didn't vote. And he, whipped the party to vote to abstain in the vote. So as time goes on, I'm beginning to really lose a bit of patience with Labour. Corbyn is held as a sort of, as I say, messiah figure who can do no wrong. But Corbyn did not vote for the NHS reinstatement bill, which would have stopped privatisation of the NHS. Corbyn did not whip his party into voting against Trident. He gave them a free vote. And yet he didn't give them a free vote when it came to things like PR. He said that he will take Brighton back from Caroline Lucas. He's for extra air travel, like an extra runway at Heathrow. He's talked about reopening coal mines. So really, what's really changed? Corbyn says some of the right things. He's saying the right things on social justice most of the time. But what has changed in the Labour Party? What's really bothering me is these bills, like the NHS reinstatement bill, come up. And apparently that's what Labour's all about now, stopping privatisation in the NHS. And then they don't vote for it. So there's lots of people, 500,000 people-ish, who are all convinced that Corbyn is some sort of messiah for the left, giving Labour just over £4 million with their £25 voting fees. And this is a Labour Party that's now considerably richer, that is actually working against the interests of most people who would call themselves progressive in this country. Labour councils, who these people are also funding, such as Lambeth, which are knocking down all their social housing and building luxury accommodation. They're not progressive. Most Labour government decisions, I mean, how many people in the Labour Party, as in MPs, are even vaguely aligned to Corbyn? If he hadn't had his name on the ballot paper, maybe he wouldn't have been reselected. And yet these people are being funded by these £25. It bothers me that a lot of faith has been put into Corbyn and his form of Labour Party by people who are desperate for some sort of anti-Tory movement. And yet here he is. His track record is he's not voting for the things, well, many of the things that we hold dear, and that most of the people joining Labour to support him hold dear. He's not supporting PR, so it's, again, very tribal, Labour or nothing. We've made all the approaches to him to work in progressive alliances and have heard nothing. Because as far as a lot of Labour people are concerned, it's a two-party system, and Labour will be that other party. And it's just not sustainable. Looking at the polling, if Labour don't work with other parties, they're not going to win. I don't want to see the Tories win. I would be quite happy to see Corbyn as Prime Minister, but he's not going to do it without the help of other parties that want the same sort of thing. We need an alliance of parties that support PR. What we need, and I've said this before, is all of the parties who want PR to just put one candidate up at the next general election against the Tories, get PR, and then call another general election. That's all we need. This is all Corbyn has to commit to. It'll help Labour. It'll help us. It'll help everyone. It will help people vote for what they actually want. And when we see things like yesterday in Parliament, where my MP, a Tory, was voted for PR, and as I say, St Corbyn did not. The vote could easily. People say it was a 10-minute rule bill; it would never have passed. The thing is, if the Labour MPs in the Commons that day had voted, if they'd all voted for it, it would have passed. It's that simple. There were enough there. The 7 of them who voted against the bill, and if they'd voted the other way, it would have passed. So it could have passed. Yeah, maybe it would have then come into some difficulties later on. But the thing is, you don't know unless you try. And if you've got to put your money where your mouth is, you've actually got to. There's no point saying, "Oh, we're not going to vote or turn up because it will never pass." So there is no track record for those MPs. How do the public hold them to account when they can't see a voting record? It's just massively frustrating, and I slightly resent being told by Labour people, Labour, they're great now. They're going to solve all the world's problems. It's once we got rid of all these Corbynites, and you could say to them, so why did you vote against the NHS bill or this PR bill? Oh, give us time. We've just got to clear out the Corbynites. I've heard for about 20 years from people in the Labour left that, oh, just give us time. I've run out of patience now because they've got their leader that they desperately wanted, who was left wing. What's changed? Oh no, nothing yet. We've got to deselect them all at the next general election. Okay, so then we vote Labour again, or that's what you want us to do. Vote Labour again in 2020, on the assumption that somehow we'll get this magic progressive government next time. It's too much. It's too much. They should work with other parties, work with us, form a progressive alliance, stop being so tribal. And that's the way we shift the Tories. It's not Labour or nothing, it's everyone together or nothing. And they are going entirely the wrong way about it. And I think a lot of people who are not natural Labour voters, and I know quite a few of them, but who have joined to vote for Corbyn, are funding a party which really fundamentally disagrees with everything they think. Corbyn might not, but maybe he will, because who knows, because he doesn't vote for things that people would imagine he would. How can Corbyn not vote for stopping privatisation of the NHS? The track record is not good. So yeah, stop supporting Labour until they get their act in order, or maybe never. There are progressive parties like ours around already. If all those 500,000 people, or however many joined up to support Corbyn, had joined the Greens instead, just think of what the news would be. Just think, it's party united in purpose for these causes, rather than split and fighting each other and not fighting the Tories. It would be better to have a slightly Blairite Labour, like Ed Miliband's Labour, providing decent opposition, and then concentrate on building something like us, like the Greens or SNP or Plaid, building them up with all these momentum people, building us up into the credible left opposition, because in the next general election it's going to be the same as this one. I mean, in 2015 I was told by Labour supporters, oh yeah, well, we don't really agree with our manifesto, but we'll vote for it because Labour will change. And of course at that point they had no idea that Corbyn was going to come along. They just had this vague optimism that something will get better. But I tell you this, it's not going to get better. It won't, because most of your MPs don't agree with you. Split the party. If Labour splits, then maybe we'll get somewhere. If Labour doesn't split, there'll be this infighting. If Corbyn wins the next leadership election in Labour, it's not going to end there. You can't have most of your MPs have voted no confidence in you, and then just expect them to buckle under when you win again. There will be leadership election after leadership election. Of course it will, if it brings in £4 million each time. That's no way to run a party. The only thing Labour can do is split. And the only thing, until then, the people who are progressive can do is vote something, or join the Greens and work with us, where we're united in our anti-austerity message, united behind PR, and united behind stopping NHS privatisation.